One day, a pilot named Barry came home carrying several bags packed with cash. As soon as he entered the house, he became worried. There was money everywhere already, and he had no idea where to keep the new bags. The house was so full that there wasn't even enough space left underground to hide anything. Every time he dug a hole, he ended up finding old bundles of money he had buried before. After thinking for a while, Barry decided to hide the cash inside the horse stable, but the moment he opened the stable door, a huge stack of money came crashing down on him. Notes flew everywhere and covered the whole place. Looking at this scene, it was hard to believe that just a few years earlier, Barry had been living a normal life as an airline pilot. Back then, he had a beautiful girlfriend named Lucy, and everything seemed perfect. Barry believed his future would stay peaceful and happy forever. But one day, everything changed. Guys, it costs a lot of money to legally license these movie clips for YouTube, so a simple subscribe and like from you would make all the hard work worth it. Now, let's get back to the story. One evening, after arriving at a hotel to rest, Barry was approached by a man with a beard. The stranger began accusing him of secretly transporting cigars for extra money. Barry immediately became nervous. If anyone found out about this, he could lose his reputation and his pilot's license. His entire career would be finished. Seeing how scared Barry was, the man finally revealed the truth. He introduced himself as Monty and said he worked for the CIA. Soon, Monty took Barry to meet the rest of his team. They brought him to a hidden aircraft hangar. Inside was one of the fastest planes Barry had ever seen. The aircraft had two powerful engines, and Barry could not take his eyes off it. He admired every part of it. Monty noticed his excitement and explained the mission. Barry would fly over countries in Central America and take intelligence photographs. To get clear pictures, he would need to fly very close to the ground. Monty also warned him that the mission was highly secret. He could not tell anyone about it, including Lucy. Barry barely paid attention to the warning because all he could think about was flying such an amazing plane. To make things even better, Monty allowed him to test it. Later, Barry returned home and told Lucy that he was quitting his airline job because he had found a better opportunity somewhere else. He never mentioned the secret mission. Lucy thought the decision made no sense. She could not understand why someone would leave a captain's position for a company nobody had even heard of. That same night, while working on a flight, Barry made the choice to leave his old life behind and start something new. From that point on, he began working for Monty. Barry regularly flew deep into Central America, risking his life on dangerous missions to collect photographs. Every trip was risky, but instead of being afraid, he started enjoying the excitement. Whenever Monty showed the photos to his bosses, they were impressed and praised the results. Even after all this time, Barry still kept the truth hidden from Lucy. Eventually, the two got married and welcomed a daughter into their family. Despite all the dangerous work he was doing, Barry was not earning much money. He complained to Monty and said that he could not support a family with such a small income, but Monty ignored the problem and offered no solution. Not long after that, Monty sent Barry on another mission, this time in Panama. Since Barry had already completed many operations like this, he handled it without any trouble. Then the year 1980 arrived. One day, while stopping in Colombia to refill his plane with fuel, Barry suddenly found himself surrounded by three armed men. They carried guns openly and clearly were not there to talk politely. The men forced Barry into a car and drove him away. Since he had no choice, he went with them quietly. They eventually arrived at a base where Barry met the man in charge, Pablo Escobar. Pablo already knew exactly who Barry was. He even knew that Barry was taking intelligence photos around Central America. Hearing this shocked Barry. He quickly tried to deny everything and claimed that he worked for a normal company. Pablo simply laughed because he already knew the truth. Then Pablo explained that he was not interested in hurting Barry. He only wanted Barry to transport some cargo using his plane. Pablo took him around his farm and showed him how difficult it was to move the goods without getting caught. He said he needed a skilled pilot to help. For every successful delivery, Barry would be paid $2,000 for each kilogram transported. The moment Barry heard the amount, he became very excited. It sounded like much better money than taking photographs for the CIA. However, after learning more details, he discovered a serious problem. The runway on Pablo's property was extremely short. Many pilots had already died trying to take off from it. Barry suggested making the runway longer since Pablo clearly had enough money to do it. But Pablo did not like being told what to do. He replied that Barry could either accept the job or leave and that nobody had asked for his advice. Those words annoyed Barry. He decided to prove that he could handle the challenge. He confidently said that the delivery would not be done Pablo's way. Instead, he had his own plan. Barry explained that there was an area with large open fields where he could fly very low and drop the cargo safely from the air. Barry told Pablo that his men could simply collect the cargo from that location after it landed. Pablo liked the idea and ordered his workers to load everything onto the plane. While getting ready to leave, Barry noticed one of Pablo's men sitting inside the cockpit. Barry immediately explained that the aircraft was already carrying too much weight and could not safely take another passenger. Because of that, the man had to get off. Pablo agreed and told him to step down. Before Barry left, Pablo handed him a cross and wished him good luck. Barry thanked him and prepared for takeoff. What he didn't know was that Pablo and his men were secretly placing bets on whether he would survive the takeoff or not. The runway was short and dangerous, and many pilots had already lost their lives there. Barry pushed the plane forward and lifted into the air. For a brief moment, the aircraft dropped because of the heavy load, but Barry quickly regained control. He carefully guided the plane above the trees and escaped safely. As he entered American airspace, military radar picked up his aircraft. Barry had no idea that he was being tracked. He continued flying toward the drop location. Once he arrived, he switched on the autopilot, opened the hatch beneath the plane, and released the cargo. Just like that, the delivery was completed. The next time Barry returned to Colombia, Pablo and his brothers welcomed him like a hero. They even threw a party and handed him a bag packed with cash as payment for the successful mission. But before Barry could enjoy the celebration, soldiers suddenly stormed the area and surrounded Pablo's house. Pablo calmly told Barry to stay inside while he went out to deal with the situation. Barry had never experienced anything like this before. Gunfire started erupting outside, and he became more frightened every second. Worried about what was happening, he grabbed the money bag and stepped outside looking for Pablo. Unfortunately, the soldiers captured everyone they found, including Barry. A few days later, Pablo and all his men were released because no charges could be proven against them. Barry, however, remained stuck in jail. Sitting alone behind bars, bruised and exhausted, he wondered how things had gone so wrong. His face was covered with injuries, and 2 of his teeth had been knocked out. While he was suffering there, Monty suddenly appeared. Instead of comforting Barry, Monty informed him that he had been accused of drug smuggling. Even worse, the authorities were planning to search his house at 6 o'clock the next morning. Hearing this crushed Barry. He didn't want Lucy and his daughter dragged into the mess he had created. Desperate, he begged Monty to help him. What Barry didn't realize was that he was becoming more dependent on Monty with every problem. Monty told him he could help, but only if Barry agreed to do another job first. He explained that a nearby country had recently changed governments. Many people there were fighting against the new president, and the United States wanted to secretly support those rebels with money and weapons. The government wanted everything kept hidden so that nobody could connect America to the operation. Monty had been placed in charge of making it happen, and now he had the perfect pilot to help him. Monty admitted that he couldn't erase Barry's criminal record, but he had another solution. He told Barry about a small town called Mena and instructed him to meet him there. Since he had no better choice, Barry agreed. After returning home, he woke up Lucy and their daughter in the middle of the night. He told them to quickly pack everything because they would be leaving immediately. Lucy was confused and worried. She kept asking what was happening, but Barry couldn't tell her the truth yet. All he could say was that she needed to trust him. The next morning, the family loaded all their belongings and left. After a long trip, they arrived in Mena, a tiny town with only about 2,000 residents. Monty had arranged a rundown house for them to stay in. It was a huge change from the life Lucy had been used to. Not long after they arrived, Monty showed up as well. He took Barry outside and surprised him with something unbelievable. There was a massive airport covering around 2,000 acres of land. Monty told Barry that the entire place now belonged to him. Everything there was his to use. Barry stood there in shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The same man who had always refused to pay him more money was now handing over an entire airport. Then Monty opened a large wooden crate. Inside were many AK-47 rifles. He explained that Barry's new job would be delivering these weapons to the rebels. To make the missions easier, Monty handed him a map showing the safest routes and the exact locations of military forces. With this information, Barry could avoid danger and reach his destination without being noticed. Monty also returned a bag filled with money that had been recovered during the raid on Pablo's property. At that point, Barry had no reason left to refuse. He finally realized that he needed to tell Lucy the truth. Lucy was already upset because he had moved her from a comfortable city to a tiny town where they barely had anything. Their house didn't even have simple things like a television or a washing machine. She had no idea how she was supposed to raise their daughter there. Barry listened to her complaints and then revealed everything. He pulled out the bag full of money and showed it to her. Smiling, he told her that the money could buy a washing machine and much more. Then he started tossing cash around the room, showing her how much they now had. Seeing all that money changed Lucy's mood completely. After that, Barry officially began his new work in 1981, transporting weapons for Monty's secret operation. With a plane full of weapons, Barry arrived in Nicaragua. He expected the rebels there to be grateful for the supplies, but things turned out very differently. The moment he landed, the men showed no interest in the weapons at all. Instead, they grabbed Barry's shoes and even took his glasses. Barry was furious. As soon as he got the chance, he called Monty and told him everything that had happened. Monty barely cared. He told Barry that his only job was to make sure the weapons reached the correct location. Whether the rebels used them or not was not his problem. Since he had no choice, Barry continued working. The next time he flew there, he brought a baseball bat with him. He figured that if anyone tried to mess with him again, he would be ready. Along with the weapons, he also brought some gifts for the rebels in hopes of avoiding trouble. When he arrived, he was shocked to see Pablo Escobar and his two brothers there. At first, Barry thought there was going to be a fight, but that wasn't the case. Pablo explained that the rebellion was mostly an act. They were using the situation to receive support and supplies from the United States. After that, Pablo approached Barry with another offer. He wanted Barry to start transporting illegal cargo into America again, just like before. This time Barry had an advantage because Monty had given him a special map showing safe routes and military positions. Thanks to that map, the chances of getting caught were much lower. Barry agreed and got back to work. For the next several months, he followed the same routine over and over. He delivered weapons to Nicaragua and then transported illegal cargo back into the United States. The business kept growing, and so did the money. Soon Barry was making more money than he had ever imagined. The operation became so large that he hired 4 additional pilots to help handle all the flights. As things expanded, the CIA came up with another plan. They no longer wanted only weapons delivered. Now they wanted rebel fighters brought into America so they could receive training before being sent back to fight their government. Barry asked where these people were supposed to stay and train. Monty smiled and reminded him about the huge airport he had given him. He basically told Barry to let them use part of it. Barry didn't really care. To him, it was just another job. Instead of carrying cargo, he was carrying people. The plan sounded simple, but it quickly ran into problems. Most of the rebels came from poor backgrounds and had spent their lives struggling. Once they arrived in America and saw the opportunities there, many of them decided they didn't want to return home. They would simply disappear and start new lives. Barry didn't waste time worrying about it because his focus was always on making money. Before long, he ran into a new problem. He was earning so much cash that he didn't know what to do with it. He couldn't put all of it into the bank because people would immediately start asking questions about where it came from. So he only deposited a small amount and kept the rest hidden. He spent money freely and enjoyed a luxurious lifestyle. He bought Lucy a brand new car, renovated their home, and even paid for baseball tickets for everyone in town for an entire year. Yet no matter how much money he spent, even more kept coming in. To deal with the growing piles of cash, Barry created several businesses and hired local people to work for them. Even though many of the jobs served no real purpose, he stuffed money into every corner of the house and buried some of it outside. At this point, Barry was living like a king, but then another problem arrived. Lucy's brother JB came to visit. He constantly asked Barry for money and wanted an easy life. Barry was willing to hand him some cash just to make him leave. Lucy disagreed. She insisted that her brother should work if he wanted money. Since Barry didn't want to argue with her, he gave JB a job at the airport hangar. His task was simply to help clean the place. Around this time, the story catches up to the opening scene. Barry was busy collecting money that had fallen around the stable when JB suddenly showed up, driving a fancy new car with his girlfriend beside him. Lucy immediately became angry because she knew JB wasn't earning enough money to afford something like that. Barry demanded to know where the money came from. JB casually explained that while cleaning, he had found a bag filled with cash and used some of it to buy the car. Barry was furious after hearing that. He couldn't believe JB had taken the money, but at the same time he wasn't sure how to handle the situation. Unfortunately, that was only the beginning of his troubles. Over the next couple of years, Barry became more careless. His growing operation started attracting attention from law enforcement. Eventually, the DEA decided to go after him. They set up a plan to catch him in the act, but Barry knew airplanes better than anyone. He understood that the DEA's aircraft could fly fast but couldn't stay in the air for very long. During one chase, Barry spent the entire night flying in circles above the ocean. Eventually, the DEA planes ran low on fuel and were forced to turn back, allowing him to escape. However, escaping one agency didn't solve his problems. The FBI had also started paying attention. The huge amount of money flowing through Barry's operation was becoming impossible to ignore. Agents soon arrived in Mena to investigate what was happening there. One investigator noticed that several banks had suddenly opened in the small town. Expensive luxury cars were everywhere, and people seemed far wealthier than they should have been. The FBI couldn't understand where all this money was coming from. While Barry continued running missions, another government agency also started watching him. Now the Border Patrol had begun tracking his movements as well. After seeing how Barry had escaped from the DEA before, the Border Patrol came up with a better plan. This time they sent 2 aircraft that were similar to Barry's plane, so he wouldn't be able to outrun them easily. When Barry noticed them following him, he became annoyed and quickly brought his plane down. Instead of landing at an airport, he landed right on a highway. As soon as the plane stopped, Barry jumped out. He tossed some cash toward a group of kids standing nearby, grabbed one of their bicycles and rode away before anyone could stop him. Not long after escaping, Barry received a call from Pablo. The DEA was hunting Pablo as well, so he had left Colombia and moved to Nicaragua. Pablo wanted Barry to come there, and Barry soon headed in that direction. Back in Mena, while Barry was away, JB got his hands on another bag full of money. He took his fancy car and went out looking for fun. Carrying a suitcase stuffed with cash, he entered a restaurant. Everything was going fine until he spotted several police officers eating inside. The sight of them instantly made him panic. JB turned around and ran, but the officers quickly chased him down and arrested him. At that same moment, Barry was meeting with Pablo. Then he received a call from Lucy telling him what had happened. Hearing the news, Barry immediately rushed back to Mena. The first thing he did was hire the most expensive lawyer he could find to get JB released. Unfortunately, Pablo started worrying that JB might tell the police everything he knew. Pablo calmly told Barry not to worry because he would take care of the problem himself. Barry understood exactly what that meant. If Pablo got involved, someone was probably going to die. He tried to stop him, but Pablo had already made up his mind. As soon as JB was released from custody, Barry picked him up in a car. He handed him a package containing a passport, plane tickets, and enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Barry wanted him to leave the country and stay far away from trouble. JB completely misunderstood the situation. He thought Barry was trying to get rid of him. Angry and ungrateful, he started demanding money every month. He even threatened to tell the police everything if Barry refused. To make things worse, he began insulting Lucy. Hearing that made Barry lose his temper. He got out of the car and started chasing after JB. Scared, JB jumped into the car and sped away. Barry ran behind him, yelling for him to stop. Then, only moments later, a huge explosion ripped through the vehicle. The car was destroyed, money flew everywhere, and JB was killed instantly. Barry froze in shock. He didn't see who did it, but deep inside he already knew the answer. This had Pablo written all over it. Trying to hide what happened, Barry attached the wrecked car to his own vehicle and dragged it deep into the jungle. At the same time, things were also falling apart for the CIA. Officials learned that many of the weapons being sent into Nicaragua had ended up with drug traffickers. The rebels they had trained weren't helping much either. Most of them never returned to fight and instead stayed in America. The CIA finally realized the entire operation had become a disaster. They ordered Monty to shut everything down. When Barry watched the operation being dismantled, he asked Monty whether there would be more work in the future. Monty refused to give a clear answer and simply told him to wait until he heard from him again. That response worried Barry. He knew he was in serious trouble. If Monty no longer needed him, then nobody in the government would protect him. The very next day, Monty arrived at his office and ordered every document connected to Barry to be destroyed. He wanted all traces of their relationship erased. Meanwhile, Barry knew danger was coming. He gathered his pilots and workers and told everyone to pack their things and prepare to leave. But they were already too late. Just as they were getting ready to escape, law enforcement agencies arrived from every direction. The DEA, FBI, ATF, local police, and many others all showed up at once. Barry was arrested and taken to meet prosecutors who wanted to make sure he received the harshest punishment possible. Even then, Barry refused to give up. He tried offering bribes to almost everyone involved. He promised huge amounts of money and claimed he could make them rich for life if they helped him. Then something unexpected happened. During the meeting, a lawyer received a phone call. Barry noticed that everyone's attitude suddenly changed. The prosecutor walked out looking upset and ordered the officers to remove Barry's handcuffs. Somehow, that single phone call had made all the charges disappear. Barry was now free again. The moment he stepped outside, 2 men wearing suits escorted him into a car. Barry assumed they worked for Monty. Instead of taking him to Monty, they drove him to an airport. From there, he was flown straight to the White House. Barry couldn't understand what was happening. He was nervous and confused about why someone like him had been brought there. Soon he met high-ranking government officials, including the CIA director and an army colonel. They had one final job for him. They wanted Barry to meet Pablo again while secretly taking intelligence photographs. The government hoped the pictures would provide undeniable proof against Pablo. Barry agreed, but he was terrified. If Pablo discovered the truth, Barry knew he wouldn't survive. After saying goodbye to Lucy and the rest of his family, Barry and one of his assistants set off on the mission. Their journey took them through heavy storms before they finally arrived in Nicaragua. As soon as the plane landed and the door opened, Barry saw armed soldiers waiting outside. They were holding guns and surrounding the aircraft. Barry immediately panicked and began trying to explain himself. Before he could say much, Pablo appeared. Looking completely serious, Pablo ordered his soldiers to kill Barry. Barry's heart nearly stopped. He thought his life was over. Then Pablo suddenly burst out laughing. He revealed that he was only joking and told the soldiers to lower their weapons. Apparently, this was Pablo's idea of having fun. After the scare was over, Barry handed over the weapons to Pablo and his men. While everyone was busy talking, Barry's assistant secretly switched on the hidden camera. The camera quietly recorded Pablo and the people around him. Their faces were captured clearly, giving the authorities the proof they had been looking for. When Barry returned, the government officials were thrilled. The mission had been extremely risky, but it had worked perfectly. To celebrate the success, the CIA director even organized a party. Everyone congratulated Barry for completing the job. For a short time, it seemed like everything had finally gone his way, but that didn't last long. One day, the government suddenly broke its promise. A photograph connected to the operation appeared on television, and Barry's face could be seen clearly. The authorities wanted Pablo to see the image, and their plan worked. Pablo quickly learned that Barry had helped the government gather evidence against him. The betrayal made him furious. Before long, Pablo sent some of his men to hunt Barry down. At the same time, Barry faced another disaster. The very people who had used him for years now turned against him. The government accused him of smuggling and decided to make him take the blame. Soon, the FBI moved in and began taking everything he owned. His money, his property, and all the things he had worked for were being seized. Knowing what was about to happen, Barry came up with one last plan. On the night before everything was taken away, he gathered all of his expensive jewelry and put it on Lucy. He told her to leave immediately because the authorities couldn't easily take away what she was wearing. Lucy didn't want to leave him behind. She wanted to stay with her husband, but she also knew she had to think about their children. With no other choice, she agreed and left. The next morning, FBI agents stormed the house. They searched every room and turned the entire place upside down looking for money and valuables. Barry stood there watching as everything he had built disappeared. The wealth was gone. His family was gone. The life he had worked so hard to create had completely fallen apart. As time passed, the situation slowly cooled down. Barry's punishment ended up being much lighter than expected. Even so, he knew his troubles were far from over. Pablo Escobar was not the type of man who forgave betrayal. Barry understood that there was always a target on his back. To stay alive, he became extremely careful. He rarely stayed in the same place twice. Almost every night, he checked into a different hotel room because he was afraid someone would find him. For years, Barry lived this way, constantly looking over his shoulder and wondering when Pablo's revenge would finally arrive. Then one day, the fear became reality. While sitting inside his car, a hitman approached and opened fire. Barry was shot and killed, bringing an end to the dangerous life he had chosen. In the beginning, he was just a pilot with a normal life, but his hunger for money pulled him into a world of crime, secrets, and powerful people. For a while, it made him rich beyond imagination, but in the end, it cost him everything. So what do you think about Barry's story? Was the ending fair, or do you think he deserved another chance? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this.